Yeah, I'm Maria Åkerfeldt, and I'm here from H&M Group. I think most of you know that we are a fashion brand, and we represent these brands. Also that as a fashion brand, maybe it's a bit peculiar for you all that why we're here presenting at a food packaging symposium. Also, myself, I'm not a food contact nor a packaging specialist at all. I'm a textile specialist, but I do work with the chemical management team at H&M, and in that team we also have food contact specialists and packaging specialists. So I have checked with them before doing this. Unfortunately, they couldn't be here, but I'm trying to do this instead. So what I'll try to describe here today is more like our general take on how to work with chemical management, really, and how to be progressive in that. So that's me. And to do this, I want to start off by describing our sustainability strategy for the H&M Group, because our chemical management work is obviously very related to this. Here we have a quote from our head of sustainability, Anna Gedda. And what she focuses on is that we want to really use the fact that we are a big company, we are a big player in our field, the retail field, and we want to use this to really drive the change within the industry. Our strategy is based on these three ambitions that you see here in the circles. And we want to, as I said, be leading the change. We want to do it while being 100% fair and equal, of course, but also about being 100% circular and renewable at the same time. And this is, of course, a very ambitious goals that we have, but I will try to describe how we are dealing with this from a chemical management perspective. Also, we have tried to set down what this means for packaging specifically. I brought this in the presentation because I think this might be interesting for those of you here. For packaging, since our main business is really the fashion, of course, the apparel and all its accessories. So packaging is more like a side stream in our business. It doesn't really have all that much business value in itself necessarily. So of course the first thing that we need to do and really need to consider for packaging is to reduce it, and that's both for the economical part, but of course also very vital for the sustainability perspective, trying to use the least amount of resources that we can. So for packaging, that's really a big focus for us. The next step is, of course, there are some packaging we can't do without. The kind of packaging that would prevent our products ending up at their final destinations mildewy or moldy, or in any other way not being able to use. So that kind of packaging we still need to have. And for that, for the remaining part of the packaging, we're trying to really look into how to design them circularly from the start. And of course, as I think many of you are even better experts than I am on this particular topic, it's really important that you think of the whole life cycle, that you think about first the materials that you put in it, that they are sustainable, sustainably as possible sourced, but also that we enable recycling of the packaging themselves. And trying to think reuse, of course, as much as possible in this. So moving on to what this means for the chemical management. This is the chemical vision that we have stated. And I will move on to the next slide, because what we are even more proud about at H&M is that we have actually we don't just have a sustainability strategy and a sustainability vision, but we actually have an entire chemical management roadmap directly connected to our sustainability vision and roadmap. And of course, I'm not expecting you to read all this. It's a lot of text and a lot of small text to that. But what we have done is we have our chemical vision, which is about, again, leading the change, not being followers, but really trying to be progressive, stay forefront, and to enable safe products and what we call a toxic-free fashion future. Now, I think, as for those of you who are wondering what we mean when we say toxic-free, we do have a definition of this as well. It is a way to demonstrate our ambition. But of course, we are aware that there are many ways of describing toxicity. So yeah, leading the change. This is really important to us, as I mentioned. This is also about pushing legislation to more progressive chemical regulations. So we don't want, or we would prefer stricter chemical regulations in many instances, because that really helps us in our aim to become as toxic-free as possible and have as toxic-free production lines as possible. And of course, here we are very much engaged in different things, and we do this to achieve traceability and transparency within our supply chains, and also being able, of course, to communicate this. What's also interesting here is that we have the 100% circular is really a work area for us within the toxic-free operation. So what we're trying to do is really to, I will get back to exactly what we're trying to do that, but that is there, and it's really like a strategic working area for us. I will move on to the last thing here, cooperations that we have, because we are very proud to have a few strategic partnerships with us in this, and these are also very important for us to stay within the forefront, so that we know what's really on the agenda for today. So we have CDHC, which is more about the production itself, input chemistry, and also wastewater monitoring and that sort of thing. A firm which is really more about looking at what's in the product level, especially for apparel and footwear. We have ChemSec, of course, very important for us in policy, trying to push legislation. And I'm also mentioning here Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which has become increasingly important partnership for us, even on the chemical side, simply because we are moving more and more towards this circular economy or the circular model, and with that we really need to keep track of what we are putting into the processes. So from this, another communicated long-term goal we have at H&M Group is to have 100% recycled or other sustainably sourced materials in all our products by the year of 2030. And this is quite soon. And of course, with the goal that we also set in our chemical management roadmap to have 100% toxic-free fashion, we really need to ensure that what comes in the products here really is that great, and that it's not hazardous in any way. So what we've set about to do is to get traceability of all input chemicals into our supply chains. Now, I want to show this slide to show more what I'm talking about when I'm saying input chemical management, input chemical screening. because what we have been doing, and a lot of throughout the years, has always been to look at the end product. What's in that one? How is the quality assurance? Is it safe for the is it safe for the consumer, the customer? But then, of course, this is kind of a blunt tool because you only see what comes out at the end. But what we want to see is what really goes in as well. So we want to see everything that goes into the factory, everything that's on the the factories or the suppliers' chemical inventory lists. And then we use the output, the product testing, as well as the wastewater monitoring as a way to really check what happens so that these correlate in the way that they're supposed to. And that way we can really try to have a good view of the entire process. Now, how do we look at the input chemicals then? Well, we have, as Jonathan mentioned earlier today, he mentioned green screen, and specifically hazard-based assessment, really for chemicals. And we have decided that this will be a very important strategy for us, simply because also with the circular economy, we see a need to really monitor everything, or really that we can't even always predict the exposure. So we really need to look at what goes in and what are the hazards there, and can we remove as much as possible or even all of the hazards, and trying to find a really good system for that. So we have used, or we are using a system which is partly based on green screen and partly on the other systems as well that we have for what we call screened chemistry or safer chemistry. And this is something we will be working more on. Of course, for some things, such as when we are looking at more materials, such as packaging material, it will be important to have a screening tool that really can work on materials as well. Up till now, we have been working a lot with chemical screenings, but the next step is really to see also that we have a material screening system where we can look at the substances as well as the material itself. And of course, also in this system is really that we're hoping also that we can get a transparency without harming the intellectual property of, for example, chemical manufacturers. Because what they can do is really give us a hazard assessment without having to tell us exactly every compound itself. Because and hopefully that helps the chemical and the materials manufacturer to really share the hazard profile instead. So to really sum things up here, the basis really in all of our working areas, but you see, the common ground for all our working areas within the chemical management will be safer chemistry, as we see it. It really enables us to have traceability throughout our supply chains. It enables us to be transparent to our customers about what's in the products. It enables us to do 100% circularity. Is really a prerequisite for that anyway. Of course, you need to do a lot more to have a 100% circular design process. And it will also minimize the discharge, the toxic discharge. And it's definitely the best way to really get ahead of legislation and to see not just how it is assessed today, but see implications of how it will be assessed tomorrow. So with that, I'll show you the vision again and say thank you.